Welcome to the Soto and Chad Show. And Soto, a couple months ago, for the fun of it, we decided to review the very first WrestleMania. We just kind of want to
Hmm.
have that nostalgic feel. We were talking a lot of wrestling. People seemed to like this. So we're like, let's rewatch the first WrestleMania. We did that, had a little fun. Yes, it was shit, a little bit nostalgic, but now it's come to time like let's check out the second WrestleMania. Did it get any better? Like I don't know how far we're gonna go into this. I know
I don't
WrestleMania
know
3
how
is
to
a
answer that
hell of a
question.
lot better, but let's start with WrestleMania 2, um, which the first and I think the only time I understand what they're trying to do. They did it in three different cities, Soto. Um,
Yeah, I lost the plot on that shit. That was going. Where are the three places?
so it was Uniondale, New York, the
Okay.
Nassau
Yep.
Coliseum, Chicago,
Hmm.
Illinois, and Los Angeles. And it was like,
Hmm.
here's the funny thing: each city had four matches, and it wasn't like they went to one city to the next. It was like the first city had their four matches, and then the next city had their four. Then I'm thinking, are they staying in this building? Because I heard they have like TVs playing the other cities and what's going on. I'm like, imagine if you paid for this shit. Like, this is where I'm like, all right, this is where it failed. But Soto, before we get into like the start of the matches, I want to tell you something. I looked up the amount of time there is wrestling in each city. Okay. So I'm
Okay.
not talking about any of the other fun stuff. When bell to bell, how long the matches were. That's all I looked at.
Oh God.
Not so.
Yeah, I can see that where this is going.
Yeah. So Uniondale, the first place combined 25 minutes 49 seconds. Four matches,
Oh
Soto.
yeah.
Four
Oh,
matches
dude.
combined.
Every time they were like, "This is scheduled for a 30-minute time limit," I'm like, "My ass, this is going 30 minutes."
It will Chicago, Illinois, pretty much actually so close because the Uniondale is 49 seconds, 25 minutes, 49 seconds. Chicago, 25 minutes, 46 seconds, 3 seconds less. Um, Los
God,
Angeles, I
it did
guess you
feel
could say,
that
is the
way.
winner in time because their four matches went 33 minutes and 10 seconds. So
Wow.
barely over a half an hour of actual wrestling, and each one had 4 hours, or excuse me, four matches. Yeah, it was a mess. I get that they were trying new things. They're still figuring out like the model to WrestleMania because the first one was just such a hit, but there's a lot they can improve on. And I will say, though, this WrestleMania isn't one of the best of all times, then no one's favorite matches should be this. I actually will say right now, I feel like it was better than the first one. I just there was a little bit more matches, a little bit more stories to some of these. No, not really quality, but I think overall, still the matches were better.
Wow.
Now that's not saying a lot because the first one was kind of crap, and I think
Yeah.
the second one just someone shined that piece of crap and like it just looks better. So don't get me wrong, this was shit. There's a lot of shit on the show. There was some fun. So we're gonna kind of quickly
There was no special delivery Jones in this one.
no.
I was
He
kind of
he
bummed
just
about
got
that.
squashed in the 9 second match at King Kong Buddy, and he just never appeared
Nine
again.
seconds.
Um, yeah.
He never appeared again. Yeah, he got disintegrated.
So before we get into the matches, there's one thing I need to
Yeah.
talk about. So Ray Charles
Oh,
does
okay.
the national anthem, and I think
Sure.
the sound system didn't sound great, but whatever. A lot of people, and they're showing American presidents, American heroes. You're like, oh, you're feeling very proud, and then they end with Hulk Hogan pointing to the American flag, and then just a big picture of Hulk Hogan. Like, man, I get what they were trying to do, but I'm like, you went from like JFK, Martin Luther King, guys who fight in the war, and then you have
Uh,
Hulk
you
Hogan.
know, his theme song is "I Am a Real American." Like, he was that was his brand back then. And to your point, I think that it was a better showcase of Hulk Hogan than WrestleMania one.
Yes,
But you're right, that was kind of weird.
it was. Um, And the next quick talking point, Roddy Piper. Oh my God, one of the best talkers. Like some of this, he's like, I had to let my hair grow so people could tell me and Mr. T apart. I just died laughing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, this guy can say anything, get away with anything. It makes you love him, makes you hate him. Like you really think about that statement, you're like, oh my God, Piper is just brilliant. He was well ahead of his time. God, I love him and I
Oh,
miss him,
dude.
but he was just so great.
That's why I ended up doing, the ringside color more than anything, right? Like, in the rest of his career, he's a way better personality than he is in the wrestling thing. I thought that Mr. T boxing match was fucking just dog shit,
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to
and
that. We're
the
gonna.
pacing was fucking slow. But yeah, to your point, Roddy Piper, hilarious, and just such a perfect heel because he is such an asshole. Um, and not in the cool way that Stone Cold Steve Austin ended up becoming an asshole that you liked, but like he was just a fucking annoying ass. And that's what makes a fucking great old school heel.
And yeah, I mean, it was perfect, especially for those times. He could not get away with this shit today, but God, it just the things he says. And I know
No.
there's going to be things
No,
in
he
later
could not.
WrestleManias, which will be questioned, but we'll get to that at a later date. So let's go through some of the matches. I know some of these will be quick, but the first match, Magnificent Don Morocco versus Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Um,
Oh God.
Two guys who've been around. This is the first match for WrestleMania 2,
Yeah.
and how do they end it? With a double count out. Like they're fighting, you're like, okay,
Dude,
you kind of get into it, like out of
so boring.
everything. And I laugh because I think this is the first time, if you hear the crowd, they're chanting bullshit. I'm like, bullshit chants.
Yeah.
Oh my God, way
Yes.
back then. I was like, I love it. I love it. But yeah, this match,
Well, they
they were
paid
just,
money for this shit. It's
and
like
this is
it's like that's such a like the double count out is the dumbest ending
for a
that can
pay per
happen
view,
in a
especially
wrestling
for
match.
this. It's
Oh
one
my
thing if
God,
you're
dude.
leading up, but yeah, if you're having the blow off match at your biggest pay per view, pick a winner. Like it doesn't even matter. These guys weren't doing much afterwards.
A
Um,
double count out? That's
mhm,
so dumb and technical. Like wrestling used to have this stupid ass thing where it'd be like, we've got a time limit, and if they don't win in this time limit, then the guy's gonna retain the belt. It's like, dude, it's so boring. Pin somebody, knock somebody out, hit somebody with a megaphone, which we'll talk about later. You know what I
mhm,
mean? But the double count out, it's just what a fucking shitty way to start this thing.
yeah. So obviously that did not start things well. But the second match, I will say, might be the best match of the New York side. George Animal Steel versus the Macho Man
Oh
Randy
yeah.
Savage. Obviously, Savage kind of this is when he joined. He wasn't there as the first one. He obviously had Miss Elizabeth. This was not really a technical wrestling match because George the
No,
Animal
it
Steel is
sure
not really a
wasn't.
technical wrestling, but this match didn't need to be. It was entertaining. The story going into it was Steele had eyes for Miss Elizabeth. And I kind of remember this, and so he'd get distracted easily and stuff like that. And obviously, Macho Man put his Intercontinental belt on the line. But there's some things in
Yeah.
this match I do question. Um, I know George Animal Steel. He loves. I always remembered him eating the turnbuckles, and I loved it as a kid. It's stupid,
Yeah.
but he was biting Savage's boots, and that was
Yeah.
hurting Savage. Can you explain this to me,
Yes.
or can you?
I couldn't. I didn't understand that part. I didn't understand the whole George Animal Steel to me was just slightly ahead of my time as far as like watching him and understanding what his fucking gimmick was.
Mhm.
Um, so no, I didn't understand that at all. Macho Man carried this fucking match with his personality and just everything else that was going on. I did not have nostalgic feelings towards George Animal Steel. Um, and then what were they like framing Macho Man? He was being abusive towards Miss Elizabeth.
So if you didn't want, so when Savage came into the company, he came in kind of as like
Hmm.
the new. They billed him as the new signee. Like this is the hottest guy, coming into WWF, and all these managers wanted to represent him. Like there was actually a scene in the middle of the ring where they're all just like, hey, like from Blassie, Jimmy Hart, like all of them. And then
Wow.
he came in and he kind of says, I got my own manager people. And he brings out Miss Elizabeth, which then all the obviously heel managers are like, oh, she's beautiful, this and that. So they're like, yeah, we get it. And that's how he kind of came into the company. They were making him a big deal right away. Like all these managers were fighting for his rights. But yes, him and Miss Elizabeth, because he would always ignore her. It was never an abusive thing. Verbally, he just kind of, maybe just kind of shunned her aside. Like he always put the spotlight on him anytime she got the spotlight. So obviously that's how the heel tactic worked for him. Because yeah, Miss Elizabeth was more of a face. People loved her.
Yeah.
So in that's why this whole Savage and Elizabeth dynamic worked. So yeah, Steele. also had eyes, and that's how I, kind of like a lot of the storylines for Savage. When someone has eyes for Elizabeth, that's when he becomes a fighter because he's like, no, no, this is the woman I love. But yeah, so he's always been that way with Elizabeth. But yeah, when he first came in, all these managers wanted him, and he's like, no, I brought my own.
Wow.
I'm going to be
I did
represented
not
by
know
the,
that.
yeah. You might be able to find it on YouTube somewhere. But that's how
Macho
he came
Man
in.
lore.
A little bit, that's how he started. But yes, at the end of the
Wow.
day, this is all about, again, we talked about the psychology, ring psychology. This was just meant to be two characters. I know Steel is more of a character than Macho Man because Savage can actually wrestle. But you know what? I enjoyed the match. Like, I'm not going to say this is my favorite, but it was just a fun, like I said, it was a fun match. I mean, they used a fucking flower
I
bouquet as a weapon, which I never expected.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. But to your point, I enjoyed the shit out of Macho Man. So I was watching it and I was like, you could immediately tell that it went up a few levels, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as he came, and you're like, okay, cool. Now I'm watching something that resembles what I remember a little bit, as opposed to just being like, oh, this is interesting. I can respect it for the age that it is. I saw Macho Man come on, and immediately I had a connection with what was happening.
Yeah. And again, he retained the belt, and that was about it. Probably still, like I said, the best match for New York. And the fact that I'm saying best match, I should tell you for the next two that's coming up. Because the third match, Soto, was this guy named George Wells versus Jake the Snake Roberts, who, again, Jake the
Oh,
Snake, he
I
grew
know.
into such a great character. This
Oh,
is very
dude,
early
my
on.
favorites growing up. Holy
Uh,
shit.
he had an undefeated streak going in, and there wasn't much. He quick DDT. This is over. Obviously, there's the only interesting tidbit is this George Wells guy, who I don't really remember, was technically the first tag team partner of Bret Hart before Jim the Anvil Neidhart. They actually teamed up.
Wow.
That's the only tidbit I could throw at you. But the one thing I laughed is
Well, no,
obviously. Go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, no, I was going to say the one thing I had to laugh about this match is obviously anyone that knows Jake the Snake Roberts, he brings out his Python Damien, and so he
Yes.
puts it on, and then like it's not I don't he didn't get bit, but somehow he's foaming at the mouth. I'm like, all the snake did was rub against you. And then you're foaming at the mouth. If you really think about it, it's like I've been poisoned by the skid. Um, I mean,
how
obviously
is
this was just
how is a snake not a foreign object, right? Like
well,
it's
it was after
a
the
snake.
match.
It's got to be a foreign object. Like it's like what I mean. It's like I didn't understand that whole entire thing. It's like, but I love Jake the Snake as a character.
Oh yeah,
And again, as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh shit, Jake the Snake, awesome. But what a ridiculous thing! What a ridiculous thing! The foaming in the mouth thing. I don't understand, and it makes me think in the future of a Macho Man Jake the Snake altercation that will haunt me for the rest of my life.
yeah. I know which one you're talking about because the
We
snake
all
actually
know. Which we all
bit
know.
Macho Man. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
luckily,
You had to
obviously
censor it
not
on
venom.
TV, quote unquote.
Not if you saw it live. So the main event of the New York's matches was, as we've been talking about, the Piper versus Mr.
Ugh,
T boxing match, and
God,
obviously this kind of stemmed from WrestleMania One.
so
They showed some
bad.
reviews. Um, yeah, I wish they would just, and the way it ended too. I mean, obviously Piper had to get a
It's a
little of the heat
disqualification. Like
back. I'm like,
Roddy he just body slammed him, right? Is that what happened?
yeah, and then he got
Yeah, got
disqualified. I'm like,
disqualified.
why not just give Mr. T the knockout? Like, I know these two really, there was some genuine heat between these two, but I'm like,
Ooh.
again, another, kind of weird finish. Yes, it would have been one thing after the match or something, or without the ref looking, and then, Mr. T fights back. But this is just horrible. Piper actually, looked good the first two matches. I mean, they made him look good, even though Mr. T was being trained supposedly by Joe Frazier. But yeah, yeah. I mean,
So dumb.
it was just, and it was even a bad boxing match. I mean, I know they
Oh,
were
I
trying to
know.
choreograph everything, which is horrible.
You
Um,
can't fake it. You can't fake boxing, man. That's a real fucking sport, and it showed.
yeah, but
Oh,
yeah.
so
So
bad.
technically the best match, in my opinion, for the New York Four, Steel versus Savage. I mean, I just the way the other three
By
went.
far.
I mean, so
By
imagine
far.
that. Just imagine this is the show you went to. And yeah. But then they go to Chicago. Gorilla Monsoon and Mean Gene are your taco. And I love these two as a combined. They're great. Then they got
Yeah.
some Kathy Lee Crosby. But the first match, the ladies championship again, Fabulous Moolah versus Velvet McIntyre.
Yeah.
And this lasted a whole, like, they started out on fire. Like, these two came out. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And then 5 seconds later it was over.
That's,
Like,
that was my favorite part.
It was just over.
As soon as it ended, I was like, oh, sweet mercy, yes. I was like, I was hoping this wouldn't go on any longer than it needed to. As soon as it ended, I was like, I have no problem with this. I have no
Yep.
problem with this at all. This is great.
And
Best
booze,
match of the night.
booze. Chicago just booed
Yeah.
them though. I mean, there was just nothing. They were just like head snaps, this and that, and that was it. Um,
Snap mare takedowns.
yeah, like I said, I mean, they came out firing. I know they're both older
They
at this
did.
time. I mean, Mula's always, but I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, they're moving around, and then it's just like bang. I'm like, oh. The way obviously Vince McMahon always hated the women's ladies championship. They never really did much. Um,
No shit, Vince.
and then
No
this
shit. What
second
a
match
surprise.
was another one that was kind of over before it started, but the trope, the flag match with Nikolai
Oh
Volkov
my god.
versus
I
Corporal
know.
Kirshner. Um, yeah, there wasn't much of this either. Blassie threw the cane to the wrong guy, though obviously it was a setup, but he threw it right at him. And it was just over. Then, the USA chant, and that was about it. There was nothing
That
much.
was
Chicago
it.
0-2
Yeah.
on good matches.
Yeah.
Um,
What was it, Nikolai Volkov
yeah,
versus
because
Kirshner?
he sings the Russian anthem. He's like, and then that
Which
was
is
about it.
like cheap heat, right? Cheap
Yeah.
heat's been
Oh,
around since
so
the beginning of time. Just cheap heat. Like just make fun of somebody's city that you're in. All people like dumb looking and stuff, and then people be like, boo, this guy's an asshole.
yeah, and then America saves the day. That's what we learned in like old school WWF.
Yeah, thank
It's
you, Vince. You're an amazing writer. I can't believe.
But then the third match, which obviously for reasons I would say is probably the match of the night for Chicago, is that 20-man battle royal, which they
Oh
actually
my
had
god.
NFL
What the
players.
fuck? Oh,
Go
this
ahead.
fucking battle royale. No, it's just like it's just like a bunch of guys
Yeah.
just
Well,
filling up a fucking ring. Like a bunch of guys showed up. Some of them were recognizable, like the Hart Foundation. That was nice. And then there was fucking Andre the Giant, who just looks like everybody's fucking dad in that ring. I don't know how that ring held up everybody. But to
so,
your
so
point, I guess there were some Chicago Bears guys in there.
well, there's NFL players. There was a couple Bears. They had like a Falcons guy, so it was like a mix. And yeah, they had Andre. They had Big John Studd. Um, I know they had
Some hillbilly guy, right?
Bruno
Hillbilly Jim was he in
Sammartino.
there?
They say what?
Oh my God, Bruno Sammartino was in there. That's
Yeah,
right.
Hillbilly Jim was in there. Pedro Morales was in there. So there's like a lot of these classic wrestlers, and I'm just like, who got thrown in this.
Oh,
I mean, again, cause William Perry and it being Chicago, I think that's why
oh
this
my
match
God,
kind of
dude.
led up
He
got
got
the.
such huge pops.
But so
Such
for
huge pops.
so do you asked about the ring, and we talked these big guys. Do you know what the combined weight was of all 20 men?
Oh my God, entirely too much. It was a lot.
5,000
Tons.
5,612 pounds in
Isn't that
one
five
ring.
tons?
Well, that'd be
Or
technically
wrong?
2 tons, because to that, but
Okay,
still,
thank you.
2.5 tons. For, but yes, almost 3 tons. But yes,
Wow.
5,600
With
pounds.
Andre the Giant in there?
Yep, and he was close to
Damn,
500
dude. Guy
himself. But
was,
yeah, but
yeah, his body could not handle that. But go ahead.
no. The one thing that always kind of bothered me is obviously the big spot with the refrigerator and Big John Studd. Big John Studd, throws him out, and then Perry does the heel move, shakes the hand and pulls the guy. I think that should have been. I think if the fridge would have thrown out Big John Studd, that would have got them the huge. He didn't need to win it, but just that would have been the huge pop. And then yes, Big John Studd kind of cheats him out of winning, and there wasn't much. It's a battle royal. It's really hard to do these right, but it was
I hate this format of Battle Royale. I'm so happy with Royal Rumble because it's like they announce guys come in
every
at time
minute.
limits and
Yeah,
shit like that, and it gives a little bit of a flow and a momentum to the match. And so you're kind of always in anticipation of who's going to come out next. But you don't ever have the fucking ring filled with like 20 fucking guys. You don't even know what the hell is happening. Like there's a bunch of guys who were like hanging around like Andre the Giant's legs and shit like that, and it was just like a bunch of big dudes slowly doing things. It's funny that the Fridge was in this. He's actually one of the smallest guys in the fucking ring, and everybody else is just fucking ginormous. But I can't stand just the mass of humanity that just going on in this shit. You're just like, I just found myself waiting for it to just be done.
yep. But the sad part is, I mean, I think this was the funnest match. The next match might have been the best wrestling match. I'm trying to remember a little bit about it,
Well,
but
with the
they
Battle Royale, I will say this before we move on. The one bright spot I did like about this, you can correct me if you think any differently, but the one bright spot I actually thought in the Battle Royale was Bret Hart.
Oh yeah.
I thought Bret Hart was actually sort of interesting. Like, and yeah, of course, he was never going to make Andre the Giant go over the top rope, but I saw Bret Hart, I saw what he was doing, and it provided some entertainment. He
Well, the
was
funny thing,
by far the bright spot.
and I know I've talked about this because he was like one of the first entrants in the Royal Rumble, and he's actually weirdly enough when we if we get to WrestleMania 4, Bret Hart is the second to last again in that one. But I think the reason being is because of his ring psychology, because you can see him at times if you actually pay attention when he's not the highlight, like because when they center in the middle. He's got a couple NFL players and he's kind of holding them aside, and you can tell them like when their spots are. Like he is controlling a lot of this match, and that's what Hart
Oh,
has always done. And that's what you can just tell you like before like he pulled I don't know the other football player's name um, who made it the final four, but he kind of pulled him aside so Stud and Perry could have that basically the showdown, which is pretty much was the high, which was technically I would say the highlight of the match for the Chicago crowd because it was the fridge.
hmm.
So yes, you can see because I think that's why Bret Hart he's that hand like a Tito Santana, they can just put it together, and so I think that's why Bret Hart was in there. I think that's why he was second to last, obviously with Jim the Anvil Neidhart, because he can kind of control everyone else. Like, okay, hold on, now you're going to do this and you're going to go. So you see him.
It's
He
a great
kind of
point.
he's just like the fake. How they do it. Like they say, get small. They kind of look like they're struggling in the corner. But yeah, Bret Hart,
Hmm.
obviously, he's one of the best minds at it. But yes, him being there, and even the Anvil. I always loved the Hart Foundation, though I wish they would rock the pink. Seeing them in blue and black is really weird to me.
So old
Yeah.
school. As soon as I saw them, I was like, wow, this is even before the pink and black. Come
Hmm.
on.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite tag teams growing up. That was a great tag team.
But yeah, speaking about tag teams, technically, even though they said that was the main event, the last match for Chicago was the Dream Team, Brutus Beefcake and Greg the Hammer Valentine, the champs facing the British Bulldogs, who was accompanied to the ring by Ozzy Osbourne.
Boy, oh boy. He was out
Uh,
to lunch on that, man. He was just chewing on that piece of gum like it was fucking.
oh, he
They
was
owed him money,
shaking.
dude.
Like I don't know if
Yeah,
like all the
he
drugs he was
was.
taking was slowly wearing off. I mean, maybe they're still wearing, but like,
Dude, it's like peak Ozzy Osbourne, like in the middle of the '80s, right? Like you think that he's not gonna do drugs on a night where he's like, "Hey, can you show up to WrestleMania?" He's like, "Okay," and he's gonna do all the drugs because he doesn't want to be there. It's just like he's not even working. They're just like, "Can you make an appearance?" And he's like, "Sure, I'm gonna do drugs when I do it." He was absolutely just like when I was watching it, I just had forgotten that he was on this, and it just blew me away. And I loved his pink fucking suit that he was wearing, man. It was awesome.
but yeah, I mean, overall, this probably was the best match wrestling wise of the night, though it had that weird ending because somehow like one of the bulldogs whipped, I think it was Valentine in the corner, and he butted heads with the other bulldog,
Yes.
and then it was just
Yeah.
over. And it was like, oh, okay, like no but they won the championships. British
Uh-huh.
Bulldogs, kind of like the Hart
Greg the
Foundation,
Hammer
just
Valentine made a critical mistake. He did not go for the pin, and that immediately cost him,
not sure. He
and
did
he got knocked out.
the typical heel move, like, no, I'm not done with this guy. But
He
so
paid for it immediately.
now we go to the L.A. Um, portion of the
Oh
show,
yeah.
and first
Oh,
match
that
was
was a good time in LA.
Hercules versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Um,
Oh,
it,
Elvira.
it was yes, Elvira joins Jesse Ventura and Lord Alfred Hayes.
Yes.
I mean, I will admit, all their special ring
Yes.
announcers. I mean, as entertaining as they are, you're like, why are they here? Like they don't know
I
anything
was
about
fine with
this.
Elvira.
I
I was fine with Elvira, although she mentioned something about drinking blood during the broadcast, which I was like, okay, like, is the lore that you're a vampire? I'm cool with it. But
um,
oh man, that definitely that took it up a notch for me once I saw Elvira. That was good.
but yeah, Steamboat won. Another fun match, basically
Against
the typical size versus speed.
Hercules Hernandez.
Hercules, yeah, he was around for many years. He had what Power and Glory. So I forget what else he did after that,
Right,
but
he did.
yeah, he
That's
did. No,
right.
no,
My God,
he was
Power and
around for
Glory
a
had a
while.
little bit of moment there.
Yeah, him and Paul Roma, but yeah, this was
Yeah.
obviously to get
Wow.
Steamboat set up to face Savage. Steamboat was going on the winning
Oh, that's a
streak, the
great match.
Intercontinental title, which will be in the next WrestleMania, which we'll talk about another day.
Oh,
But no,
that's a
Steamboat
good one.
is always fluent, and I think Hercules is actually a good hand. He knows. how to be the strong man and work with smaller opponents. He always has. So this is actually another good match. I mean, nothing much to it. Um,
No.
the next match couldn't be done today. These wrestlers couldn't
What?
even exist. The adorable Adrian Adonis and Uncle Elmer.
What was that all about?
What?
What was that all about? Just that whole
Oh,
entire match.
uh, again, different times. What they could get away with.
Are you
That was
picking your words
Adonis's character. That
carefully?
was Adonis's character. No, but it was Adonis's character back then. That's what he did. Like I said, you could not get away with that now. Even Uncle Elmer, you couldn't get away with now. both both versions of the story. Uh, the match
Yeah,
sucked.
yeah.
Yeah,
Problematic
yeah.
to be sure. Yes.
And the best part was just Jimmy
The
Hart.
match was terrible.
It was. But Uncle Elmer is like 450 pounds. So, um,
Yeah. Never even heard of Uncle Elmer until I saw him in that situation, and I
yeah,
was
I
like,
didn't remember this. I
adorable
forgot about
Adonis. I
Adonis.
don't get it. Is this like the pre-Goldust,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
concept? You know what I mean? Because Goldust was the vibe.
he was. But I think it was a little bit definitely different than this one. I mean, well, either way. Um,
Goldust was pretty much Vince McMahon, wasn't he? Correct me if I'm wrong, but Vince McMahon's never treated the Rhodes like in any good way, like the Rhodes family. Even Dusty
okay.
Rhodes' time in
Oh,
the
correct.
WWF, I don't
The
remember
polka
him being as
dots.
good as
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, with that fire. Yeah, I don't remember him having a very good run in WWF. I remember him a lot more from WCW.
Yeah. No, the WWF stuff in Dusty Rhodes is not good. I mean, he did the
No, and
best
his
with
whole
what he could.
family. Although thank God for Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, but
Although
that
I will tell you that the American Nightmare like nickname is just so dumb to me. But I'm in the minority with that, so I get
um,
it. I get it.
the second to last match, the Funk Brothers, who I forgot was in a WrestleMania, um, going against two fan favorites, Tito Santana and Junkyard Dog. Um, another one where it was an okay match and then just a weird
All
again
right.
heel finish and another
Yeah.
bullshit chant. There's just I'm like,
Yeah. It's just there's a megaphone. Get like Junkyard Dog just gets knocked out again. For Junkyard Dog.
yeah. No, and you got two popular stars in Santana, Junkyard Dog and the Funk Brothers. I don't even know if they did anything. And I mean, I know Terry Funk had a few stints in WWE, from Chainsaw Charlie and
Terry
shit
Funk
like
is
that.
just a
But
legend.
no,
Like
I'm
he's a
not talking
legend
about
in
it.
so
But
many
in
different ways.
WWF, they
Yeah.
this is kind of when they left. They made more of their marks than other companies. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but it was just weird. And then the big main event, which they've been hyping all
Yeah.
night with vignettes and talks and stuff like that. But you got Hulk Hogan and King Kong Bundy for the championship in that blue steel cage. I might be in the minority. I kind of like that blue steel cage a lot better than
I
like
like it too.
I
I
think I like the
actually like
look.
it too.
I
It's
get
100%. Yeah.
I they changed it more for the safety of the wrestlers because it was a little bit harder, obviously. But the fact that you can see through it kind of easier and stuff like that. I don't know. I like the look.
The aesthetic
Obviously
is awesome. Just like you said. Great.
the though I always laugh. I never got why how hard it was to going out the door, to win a cage match. It's just like it's always so slow and the build up. You're like, no, no,
If it was
no,
real, no, but
no.
it's not. So it's
Well,
the
obviously I know I
even
get it, but it's just it's just like just lock the door, and be like pinfall or escape, from over the top, which obviously
sure.
Bundy was
If it was
not
a
climbing
sport,
out.
if this was actually sports, yeah, you're right. Just get out the fucking door. It's like everyone's just fucking making a beeline for the door. Sure, doesn't make
Um,
for good wrestling.
no, but I will have to say this main event was a lot better than the first one, the first WrestleMania,
Oh
because obviously,
yeah.
I mean, at
Oh
least there's more
yeah.
story to
Oh
it.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't just a
There's a
bunch of
much
guys
more
fighting,
story.
throwing punches, but obviously we know the story. Hogan wins, end of story. But the funny thing is this. Speaking about King Kong Bundy, is I think there's a story how they wanted him to return for like a bit for like a special anniversary of Raw, and Triple H reached out to him, and Bundy was like, "Yeah," he's like, "Nothing against you, brother. I have no beef with you. I will only do it if Vince McMahon pays me what he promised me after WrestleMania 2, and he never put the title. So he's like, unless you put the title on me, I'm not coming back. So I guess there might have been some
Wow.
behind. I mean, obviously we know McMahon did some shady shit, but supposedly, again, I don't know how much of this is true, but Bundy was supposed to get the title after, somewhere down the line, and obviously just got pushed to the wayside. Which, when we get to WrestleMania 3 and you see which match Bundy was in, yeah, we're gonna talk. Um, but
Ooh.
yeah,
Ooh. It's a nice tease.
do you remember his WrestleMania 3 match?
No, not
Probably
at
not.
all.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it
Look it up.
surprise me.
Look. Oh, you want to be surprised? You know what?
Oh,
Just, yeah.
I'm
When
gonna be
we get to
surprised.
WrestleMania 3, you will literally text me the instant this match comes on. Soto, I 100% guarantee it. You thought there were some questionable matches beforehand. I'm gonna wait. Whenever I know you're
Oh
watching
God.
WrestleMania 3, I don't know what order that match, it is in, and I honestly hope it's still on peak, not this match, because I don't know if they edit anything out. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna say more. But anyhow, yes. Yeah, so obviously after WrestleMania 2, Bundy kind of it fell down the ladder a little bit because obviously the next big thing was Andre and Hogan. So, but overall, Soto, going
Oh
back
yeah,
to
that
this,
I do know. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot wrong with this. Doing the three cities was a terrible idea. I know they were trying to kind of milk more money, but this is also still the earlier days when they were trying to figure out WrestleMania, what they had and what they could do. And they obviously perfected it the following year with just match
Hmm.
qualities, match stories, and all that, which
Oh, I
obviously I
can't
know we'll
wait.
get to. I can't wait either. It's still one of the better ones out there.
The
Um,
Pontiac Silverdome, is that the one this is?
yes, I believe that's the Toronto one, which, depending on
Oh, I
supposedly
thought it
the
was Detroit.
93
No.
93,000 fans, blah, 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 blah. Um,
Yeah.
so, but
The
yes,
one where he like
this one,
picks up Andre the Giant and slams him, right?
yes, though he's been slammed before and Hogan's actually slammed him before. But we'll get to that in
Hmm.
WrestleMania 3. But WrestleMania 2, the matches were better. I'm not saying that anyone's favorite match is coming out of WrestleMania 2, but compared to the first one, this was a much better show. I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw a lot more guys that I like, and that I recognized. And once I was able to make the connection, it was able to be a lot more tolerable than the first one was. The first one is kind of nostalgic in the way that it's classic, but there was a lot of opportunities. This is definitely before wrestling happened, and by that I mean, we talked about Bret Hart and people like him. Like wrestling got there were guys who were really good technical wrestlers and really understood the craft and the art style that's needed for a match to have its natural ups and downs, for a match to tell a story, for a seemingly an illusion of technicality to it, which gave it like a kind of veneer of being sports. Um, right now in WrestleMania 2, it's more about the spectacle.
Hmm.
So I can't wait till it starts leaning more towards that wrestling part.
And you're right. I mean, that was the one thing the first WrestleMania, the success of that, and the money that Vince McMahon made and the WWF made, he was able to get guys, like I said, Bret Hart, Savage,
Yeah,
Jake the Snake. We are
yeah.
seeing now just
Rick Rude.
Rick Rude eventually. He wasn't in this one. I was just kind of
Yes.
naming the ones who appeared in
Right,
two. But
right,
you're
right. But
correct.
like, yeah.
Correct. I mean, obviously, yeah, the list is going to go on. But the people that started to appear in this, he poached right after WrestleMania 1 that he could now pay a little bit more and people who'd go on to become stars of this company. You're starting to see that. And yes, technical wrestling definitely grew, which we'll see again in the third WrestleMania because still, I mean, I know people can debate, but one of the best matches ever, Savage Steamboat. And that's
Oh,
going to be,
dude, I can't
yeah.
fucking wait. I'm gonna
So,
be so drunk when I see that.
oh my God. So anyhow, but yeah, that's WrestleMania 2 in a nutshell. Obviously one that is forgotten in time with good reason, but definitely one that,
Agreed.
well, I mean, some fun matches. I mean, but again, not
Sure.
any good
Elvira,
wrestling matches. Well, yes, the celebrities and everything. Ozzy on drugs. I mean, it's just,
love it.
and then people
It's
who
on
I don't
brand.
know. But the best match of the night, wrestling wise, I go back to that tag team, the Dream Team versus the British Bulldogs. All great hands at that time. Uh, but there wasn't much wrestling matches. Fun matches, obviously.
Yeah, you're right. That was the
I,
most wrestling match.
wrestling. I'm just talking about wrestling, but fun match. Like I
Mm-hmm.
always love that Steel Savage match. People might have a little bit of nostalgia for the Hogan Bundy because the steel cage, main event. Again, I have a little biased, but despite the fact that it's just a bunch of meaty men beating meaty men, that battle royale, yes, it was a mess, but the fridge and
Oh,
stuff,
such a
that's
mess.
it was. But battle
Yeah,
royales tend to be that way. It's tough because you got to wait
yeah.
until you weed out half and then like let's start
Ugh,
creating the story to it. That's the problem. But
yeah.
yes, that is WrestleMania 2. Let us know what you liked about it. Yes, eventually we will get to WrestleMania 3. Hopefully, sooner than later, but we got a lot going on. So we don't know if we'll get to it before the holidays, but it's one of the best WrestleManias ever. So, we got to talk about this.
Can't
I don't know
wait.
how far we're going to go on this journey, but that's where we're at right now. So,
We're walking it one step at a time.
but until next time, just watch some old school WWF, man.
Cream of the crop.